And welcome back to Fantasy Baseball Camp, episode 37. This is a fun one. I'm excited for it. It's going to be our drop-o-meter. It's going to be our start, sit, cut. Start, sit, cut has kind of become one of my favorite games we play. I think it came up by accident. It kind of like another game, the Mary one, something else, something else. And I think we've enjoyed playing it. I think the audience has too. We've had some good reviews, some good comments about it. They really like some of the scenarios we've come up with. This episode, we're going to talk about players like JT Realmuto. What do we do with him? Christopher Morel, he was hot for a while. Some pitchers. Bryce Elder hasn't been that good lately. What are we going to do? And then we get to start, sit, cut. We're going to go through probably a group on every position players. Sneak peek, third base. I want to talk about Justin Turner, Josh Young, and Matt Chapman. That's a good group, and names may surprise you with who we pick. But before we get started, if you haven't already and you're watching on YouTube, give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us a comment. Say my mustache is coming in good, and Wes's eyeliner looks fantastic as always. If you're listening on Spotify or on an Apple Podcast, give us a review, 5 stars. Maybe we'll shout you out on the podcast. Get good review, good comment. Let us know. Say what you like, what you don't. But with that, we'll get right into it. Wes, how's it going?
Yeah, still struggling to get the eyeliner out of my eye,
For everybody here, Wes does not wear eyeliner. He's just got very dark eyelashes, and so his entire life he's just heard that.
Yeah, and joke. If you guys want to check it out, go to YouTube. We put out a lot of content on YouTube. Check out my eyelashes. They're very long. They're irritating at times. They poke me a lot in the eye, and it's irritating.
As irritating as it may be, there's going to be a lot of women, so many women who listen to this podcast that are going to be jealous of that. They would kill for that full-time dark.
If we ever get one lady to listen to this podcast, I'll refer them to this episode.
Yep. If you are the lady listening to the podcast, let us know. Comment and say you're here, and maybe Wes will give you some pointers on how to apply.
I will respond.
Wow, that took a weird turn quickly. This episode's fun. Our waiver wire is kind of weekly, more serious. Like, this is who we're recommending. This is who we think we should pick up. And these follow-on episodes throughout the week are a lot more laid back. They're fun. They're chill. It's just kind of a free-for-all. We don't really know what we're going to get into. So stay tuned. Listen to the whole thing. It could get wild.
Yeah. But the start, sit, cut sometimes stirs the pot. Like, there's a little bit of controversy there. There's a little bit of differing of opinions. And, honestly, we kind of like that because there's no one way to start a lineup. So, hey, everybody has different opinions, and we enjoy getting into the debate of that.
Yep. Yeah, before we get started on Drop-O-Meter, I mentioned the last episode, we're a couple days out from the trade deadline now, fewer than we were the episode before. Do you think there's any big trade deadlines that are going to surprise you? Not the Ohtani trades, not the maybe Paul Goldschmidt. Is there a player that we didn't see coming or making a big splash for a team that you think may go well in? Maybe the Reds, maybe the Orioles, maybe the Rays spend some money. Do you see any of that happening?
Yeah, I don't know that the Rays will spend money. I can see them committing to a rental type player so that they don't have to spend money the next year because they still got a bunch of guys waiting in the wings in their minor league. So I don't necessarily see in the Rays making a big splash. I could honestly see like a Brewers making a splash or, I don't know that the Dodgers going to, but man, there's some needs that the Dodgers have. Like they need a shortstop, man. So yeah, I think the Dodgers are always one to expect to make a splash. I think Burns mentioned a team the other day that I'm really intrigued by, which is the Diamondbacks. Yeah. Man, the more I think about Goldie going back to the Diamondbacks, dude, that would be awesome. You'd have Goldie there. You'd have Christian Walker there. You can, transition them in and out of DH and first base. That would be great.
They get
Jordan Lawler waiting in the wings.
They get Goldie and they retool with a starting pitcher like Dylan Cease or Max Scherzer or something like that.
Oh, man.
Watch out. Watch out. Maybe both. Yeah, maybe that's my surprise.
You know what? If there's a surprise, and I don't think they will do this because I think they have spent a lot of time building, drafting, and developing. But the Miami Marlins, man, they got some people. I mean, they have 7, 8 starting pitchers that are viable options at the major league level. I mean, Trevor Rogers hadn't even come back yet. Um, Sandy hadn't really been what he's been, in the past. Hey, maybe someone like the Marlins make a splash.
Yeah, I didn't even think about them. I mean, there's kind of Atlanta's running away with the East, but the wild card's still up for grabs.
Yeah, I think there's
Anyways,
the ones out there that you expect, like the Orioles, the Reds, the Dodgers, and probably Atlanta. Like you expect those guys to make
well,
a trade, right?
that's
But
my thing with Atlanta. Like, I don't really expect much from them. They do all their trading in the offseason. Like,
yeah,
what are they going to go get besides Otani that makes their offense better? They could
pitching
use some
depth.
starting. I think they could use pitchers. Don't get me wrong, but I just don't see them going to get, but maybe a bench role
Yeah,
because they don't need anything offense wise.
yeah, I see us making some bullpen moves, and that's about it.
Interesting. Well, maybe this guy we're going to talk about will be dropped by the Phillies, and you guys can pick him up now that you need catching. But our first guy on the drop meter, we'll try to hit one guy from each position because we know, if you're like us, you're looking like I've had this guy for the whole season. He's not been good, or the last month he sucked. And so maybe we talk about your guy and we give you some advice. First guy is JT Realmuto. Over the last 28 days, slash lines 194, 280, 373. And even on the year to date, oh, don't like him now. 247, 306, 460. I mean, he's still one of the better catchers, but he has not been good what you paid for, and I think it's going downhill too. What do you give him the drop a meter?
Yeah, if we're talking, 10 is an absolute drop, no doubt. Um, I'm going to be honest. I'm a little concerned about JT Realmuto. I mean, if you look at his trends, I mean, there's 1 week in the entire year that he's scored over 20 points. And that's just not what we've come to expect from JT Realmuto. And I don't know. I mean, I feel the same way about the Phillies that I do about the Padres. You're like, God, you look at the names in that lineup and you're like, they should be better than this. Um, but talking specifically on Real Muto, I mean, I don't know if he's a guy you're ever going to drop, so I'm probably going to go like a 5 on him. But that's not to say that I'm not concerned about him, because I am. I'm pretty concerned about him. I just don't know that you're going to get much better than what he's doing right now at the catcher position that is available, right? You got some young kids coming up like a Henry Davis, Patrick Bailey we've talked about. Francisco Alvarez is starting to get on one of those heaters, but I can't commit to dropping JT Realmuto. I think there's too much potential there. He could in the year going 25 points a week for the next 8 weeks. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I was going to give like a 4 or 5. I think just for namesake and the position being so thin, I could never drop JT Realmuto, but that doesn't mean I won't sit him. By some miracle, I don't know how he is. Francisco Alvarez is on waivers in our league. I think at this point, if you have the extra bench spot to bench JT Realmuto, I would probably start Francisco Alvarez. He leads all catchers in home runs, and he's got half the time as JT Realmuto does, not half, figuratively speaking.
Yeah.
Until he figures it out, I would rather be starting someone else, but I don't think I could drop him.
Yeah, and I had Alvarez for a little while, and then he went through one of those spells where for 3 weeks he hit like 105 with no home runs, and I dropped him, and then he turned it back around, and he's gotten hot the last 2 weeks. So if you're in need of a catcher, Francisco Alvarez is definitely got to look at. But as far as JT goes, I'm not I mean, I'm with you. I got to bench him if you have another option, but I'm not dropping him.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. So this next guy is someone we mentioned drop many, many, many times over the last couple months. Kind of turned it on over the last month itself. And that's Jose Abreu. I kind of want to get a heat check. I don't think at this point he's in the same 10 out of 10 throw him into the sun dropping, but you can't give him what he did last year. Say he's a 1. He's a must start guy. Where do you stand with Jose Abreu?
I'm 7.
Yeah. So for more context, I said he's been better, but even over the last month, he's the number 13 scoring first baseman in points leagues, which barely makes him startable. I guess you could roster him, but like guys over him over the last month, he's right around guys like Carlos Santana, Mike Ford. The names above him: Nate Lowe, Alec Boehm, Garrett Cooper, Torkelson. We talked about last episode. Like those have been better guys than Jose Abreu the last month. And prior to that, everyone was better than Jose Abreu.
Yeah, there was a point in time where Jose Abreu had the second to worst OPS in the league. There was only one guy that was worse. Um, yeah, if there's another first baseman out there that's available, like Torkelson or even a Casas, because Casas is starting to turn it on. Like, I have more faith in the potential and the upside of Casas than I do Jose Abreu right now. He just, I don't know, man. He's not impacting the ball very well. He's not hitting it very hard. He has very few home runs. I mean, it took him, like 2 months to hit a home run. I don't know. I was hoping that once he got hot, we would start seeing 20, 25 point weeks, even maybe a 30, 35 point week in there. Yeah, sure, he's been better, like we're saying, 15 point weeks, but considering what you probably invested in him, I could get that out of pretty much anybody on the waiver wire right now.
Yeah, maybe just for my drop meter, I'm somewhere around 6. I'm not excited to start him. I probably won't be starting him. Hopefully, there's better options, but maybe at this point you could trade him for someone like Spencer Steer. Steer slow down as well. Abreu, if it hasn't been there, maybe you can sell high on whatever you call this last bounce back. I'm just not super excited to roster Jose Abreu rest of the season.
Yeah.
All right, that was covered first base. Second base, a name that was drafted probably a top 5 second baseman was Jonathan India. And I think he was pretty decent to start the season. Nothing too bad. And overall, he still scored decently. But the last month has not been good. His season line stats, 250, 338, 413. And he's got almost 300 fantasy points in a standard points league. But the last month, 188, 271, 341. That's bad. He's not even a top 20 second baseman over the last month. I don't know what happened. Maybe the young guys coming up, McLean and Ellie, kind of killed his confidence. It's not good.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. The Reds are a really exciting team to watch. I don't know. Maybe he's not the guy anymore, And there's some guys in the MLB where, when they're the guy, they thrive. And I don't know. I feel like India was kind of that person. But let's be honest, he's not the guy anymore. He is probably the glue that holds everything together. Joey Votto is probably the voice, the leader in that clubhouse, obviously. But there's some exciting players in Cincinnati. And India just in the last month, man, has not been great. And I don't know if it might also be that the trade talks, there's been a lot of rumors about him being traded. If it's me, that might bother me a little bit. That might affect my performance a little bit. That's what I probably assume. But I'm sitting him right now. I don't know that I can actually start Jonathan India hitting 180 over the last 28 days, I think it was. It's tough to commit to that, even though he has scored 300 points. In fantasy, it's about what have you done for me lately? And India hasn't done much. So,
yeah, I think this may be the case with a lot of these guys we can talk about because their names. And the common theme may be I can't drop them, but I'm not starting them. And I'm right there with India until he bounces back. I think he needs to pop up. I'm probably closer to 6 or 7, close to a drop, just because I think there are better options that have showed up over the last month. But man, what a fall! Because
I know,
fantastic the first 2-3 months of the season.
And he's the type of guy that I feel like he might get it back. He's a really good player, man. And he's uber talented. And maybe this is just a rough patch for him. Maybe he's just kind of in a slump. He needs a little bit of a slump buster. Who knows? But, maybe we get past the trade deadline and he starts turning it on again. But it's a struggle right now to commit to starting India in the last few weeks.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Hopefully you have better options and you're not relying on him. This next name is someone who maybe follow a little higher on the drop-o-meter, but Max Muncy. He's on the season batting 187. I don't even know how he has 230 points, and he's on pace for almost 400.
Yeah.
He's got 21 home runs, and I guess that's the only thing keeping him afloat. But personally, I'll give my opinion first here.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would. There's many options other than Max Muncy I want at this point. I think he's probably a 9 in the drop meter. He doesn't hit for average. He's you probably bought him as a top 10, top 8 third baseman, but so many guys have arisen over the last couple of weeks. Maikel Garcia, Spencer Steer, Brendan Donovan's been better. Gunnar Henderson still has eligibility. Ellie, Josh Young, Ezekiel Duran, all those guys have got third base eligibility or started as a third baseman. Who I'd rather roster: Jake Berger, Yanni Diaz, Ace like Parades. Like all those guys have been better, and half those guys are waiver wires. I see no reason to hold on to Max Muncy anymore.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think that I would rather count on the consistency of a Gunnar Henderson or Ezekiel Duran or Jake Berger, right? Even a Jake Berger who's as home run reliant as he is still hitting. He's like 260, 250. I can deal with that. But a 180 when knowing Muncy's as homer reliant as he is. Playing Max Muncy, starting Max Muncy is like playing Russian roulette, right?
Yeah. If you have an homer, you get nothing.
Exactly. You have no idea what you're getting out of him. He might go off and hit 6 homers in a week and score you 40 points, but the chances of that happening are very slim. And if it does happen, you're probably going to win that week. But the other 6 weeks it doesn't happen, he's really going to hurt you. So, I'm with you there. I'm probably an 8 or 9 on the drop-o-meter for Max Muncy right now.
Yeah, we've been on the same page for the most part, and I think that our listeners are also probably agree with us. I don't think we're anything crazy. This next one might be a little harder. This one's personally hitting me home. He's a former Red Sox. His name is Xander Bogaerts. Xander has really not been good this year. He's been dealing with a wrist injury, and so that's what a lot of people plague it up to. But over the last 28 days, where'd he go? 241, 315, 422 for 57 fantasy points. It's not bad. As a whole, 57 over 3 weeks is, just under 15 points a game. It's not horrible, but he's not even inside the top 20 on shortstops over the last month. And really to expand that over the last year, he's 12, top 12. So makes him fairly rosterable, probably startable. But the last month, he's just gone pretty far downhill.
Yeah, and just looking at his trends, and I did have him to start the year, ended up trading him, and he started out really good. And for whatever reason, that lineup just has not been what we expected it to be. Now they're starting to come out of it, I will say. But Xander, just looking at his trends, man, there's just not many weeks he has scored even 15 points. I'm looking at it right now, 1, 2, 3 weeks. We'll count this one. So 4 weeks after this week that he would have scored 15 points or more. That's just not great. That's not what you want from what you likely invested in Xander. Now, granted, it probably wasn't a top 4 round pick or 5 round pick for Xander. If you're like me, I invested very little because I traded a minors player for him, but I don't know. It's tough. I'm probably not dropping him just because of the track record. But if you have him in your utility spot right now, I'm probably trying to find somebody that's better. So I'm gonna give Xander I'm gonna give him a 6.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking was a 6. Falls right back into the not dropping him, but
yeah.
I can't start him.
We gotta find somebody to disagree on.
I know.
This is strange.
All right, one name, Mookie Betts. What are we gonna do here? I think he's a 10.
Well, if we're going off his home run derby performance, I'm gonna give him a 10.
That's true. No disrespect. I love Mookie. They're former Sox
guy.
I
do too, man.
He has no business being in the home run derby. I know he's got 20-something on the season, but he's far from a power guy. He can't compete with Vlad and Alonso and whoever else was there.
I would have loved to see Matt
27
Olson
on
in
the
that.
season. That's great. But all right, well that was a bad. We got to find somebody we're different on. But next name. Did we get through Xander? Talking about him with 6, yeah.
Yeah.
Seiya Suzuki. Another pick you didn't invest a whole ton in, but he was expected to be better than this, and he just hasn't. I'm trying to find where he was. He's way down this list now. Uh, Where'd he go? Seiya Suzuki. Over the last 28 days, 200, not 200, slash line of 246, 308, 362, 36 points. Now, he was injured for a little bit of that, I think, because he's only got 70 plate appearances or at bats. But nonetheless, that's horrible. Horrible.
I just don't know what to make of Suzuki, man. I don't know. Like ever since he's come over stateside, I just like he's been injured a few times, but he just never really. I don't know. He just leaves more to be desired. Like we've expected more of him based on his stats in Japan and like what his power potential was. I just hadn't seen it. I haven't been really impressed by it. Like he hasn't. He's just been kind of a meh, like average type player, and he would be at most a third outfielder for me, at most.
He's not even that for me. He's a 10 on the drop meter. I see no reason to hold him. There's waiver wire options up and down that are way more valuable than him over the last month and over the whole season.
Yeah,
I've lost any faith in him.
I would say. I mean, the power potential I think is still there, but I don't know. I'd have to see him do it first, you know. So yeah, I'm right there with you. Probably, I'd give it probably an 8.
Little different there. How about this next name? That I think we can agree, or we will differ from him. Saying actually, Jordan Walker. I think this is going to be a one that
Okay.
we differentiate from.
I love Jordan Walker's potential. And the Cardinals did come out and say that he will be starting in the outfield every day. So that gives me some peace of mind as to how much playing time he's going to get in that, let's call it a circus over in St. Louis right now.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think playing time's been his issue over the last month. He's got 73 at bats. That's right up there with most every other guy. For comparison, guys like Mookie Betts has 78, Ha-Seong Kim 83, Matt McLain 88, Bobby Witt 90. So I mean, he's maybe sat a couple games, but I don't think splits has been his problem.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly hadn't hit as many home runs as we thought he would, just with his frame and his power potential. But it's also not like he's hitting 220. I mean, I think he's hitting. He's not hitting as much. I'll be honest. I think whatever the Cardinals did to him earlier this year, sending him down and asking him to work on something that was completely irrelevant to what he was doing, I think kind of messed up his development. But that's not for me. I just there's a lot of potential there in the player that he can be. So I think it's just going to take time for him to get there, just like most of the young players that that come up, right, and have come up in this year and last year. You know, same thing happened for Julio, for Bobby Witt. Like they did not get off to great starts. Now, I'm not. I don't know if I'm starting him right now, depending on what my roster looks like, but I don't know that I'm dropping him either. So for me, I think he's probably a 4 on the drop-o-meter.
Yeah, I think so. This is gonna be our biggest gap so far. I'm somewhere between like a 6 and a 7. I know he has all the power potential in the world. He's got all the skills in the world, but he just hasn't shown it yet. He's got 3 weeks over 20 points. And 2 of those are just barely 22 and 24. Maybe they make some trades. He gets more time. He gets more confidence. But I just think there's so many other options at third base and outfield that I probably don't need him in my roster. So I want to start him. Excuse me. I'm not going to start him. And if he's sitting there, I think he'll get picked up if I drop him just because of the name. But I don't know. I just feel like it's a wasted roster spot at this point. And next year, and this is for redrafts because in Dynasty, I'm holding on to him, obviously. I think we're so close to the trade deadline, the playoffs, to the crunch. If you need that roster spot, maybe for a pitcher, for a position player, I'm ready to give up for this year on Jordan Walker. So I'm gonna go with like a 6 or a 7.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I'm not going to argue with that logic.
Good. You can't. It's good logic.
Yeah, I mean, look in redraft leagues. Yeah, you can make that argument. I'm on board with that.
So what about a name that hits home for you? A couple of these guys actually we're going to talk about hits home is Sonny Gray. Get into the
Oh man,
pitchers.
I'm gonna air my frustrations out on Sonny Gray.
Get ready, listeners. This could be a long night.
God, I tried to trade him early in the season when his when his peak was there. I couldn't make anything work. Didn't find anything that fit. I was trying to sell high on him, and we got some pretty intelligent guys that play in our league. And look, just couldn't make anything work. Value wasn't there. Sonny Gray, since week 5, has scored over 10 points 3 times.
His season-long numbers are still good. He's got a 3.16 ERA with a 129 WHIP. That's not bad. 223 points. Not bad.
Is why it's frustrating and deceiving at the same time. Now,
Yeah.
I will say that I think it was week 10 and week 12, and there was 3 times that the Twins bullpen has blown a win for him. So and he didn't end up getting a quality start in one of those. So there are a lot of points out there for Sonny Gray. There in a lot of those games where he didn't score many points, he actually did pitch very well. He might have walked a few more than he needed to, given up a few more hits, so he didn't score many points. But he actually pitched really well. So the fantasy points aren't translating to what his actual counting stats are. The ERA is still sub 2.5, right? So, look, he's been really frustrating, man. And, some of it's his fault, some of it isn't, but it's just very hard to count on Sonny Gray in fantasy right now. And I think that's kind of going overlooked because his ERA is really good, as it should be. He hasn't given up many runs. He's gotten out of jams when he needed to. And the Twins have done a good job of pulling him in situations where it's the 5th inning, 1st and 2nd, no out. He's giving up back-to-back hits. Like, they don't allow him to have that blow-up moment, so you're not seeing very many negatives out of him. This last week was the first negative he's had all season. So I don't know what to make of Sonny Gray right now, man. Like, it's just this Jekyll and Hyde, maybe. I don't know. Like, he's not scoring me any points, but he's pitching really well every game, and it's like I don't know what to do with him. So I'm right in between. I'm at a 5. Tell me what to do, Tommy. I need help.
Yeah, I think it's easy to get frustrated to you because we're getting close to crunch time where you got to decide if you're going to be a buyer or seller at the trade deadline. You're fighting for a playoff spot, and you need every good player you can. But I think he still has the benefit of the doubt in my mind. I think I'm somewhere between like a 3 and a 4. I'll start him on a 2-start week. Maybe look at the matchups and sit him. But I think he's still a good pitcher. I think that's still in there. He's just going through a rough patch, and I think everybody does. Everybody does do that.
Yeah, and I will say, so he's gone 6 innings, 3 of his last 4 starts, 6 2/3, 6 innings, and 7 hits, 2 hits, 6 hits. But man, it's tough, right? Like it's tough to. One of the hardest things in fantasy is a guy was so good at the beginning of the year, through week 5, and now we're in week 15, and you're like, well, do I hold on to him? Do I start him? Like, God, it's in there. He's had a great year, but like, he's not good right now. So,
well, at this point,
how do you manage that?
I just held on to this guy for 10 weeks of being bad. What's 1 or 2 more weeks to see what happens?
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Then you get in this weird cycle of like, well, he was okay last week, and he's got a good matchup this week, so let's start him this week. And then, you get in this weird cycle of like, well, what do I do with this guy?
Sometimes it'd be easier to care less about fantasy and just go along with your day. But if we cared less, we wouldn't be doing a podcast.
Yeah, right.
So, anyways, you got 5. I've got, we'll call it a 3.5. We'll move on to the next guy. We've been burning some time on this one. Freddie Peralta, another guy you can vent on.
I dropped him. I don't know what to do with him. The start after I dropped him, he went 6 or 7. Didn't give up any runs. I was tired of watching him pitch and saying, God, he pitched good, but he didn't score any points.
He's a roller coaster. I mean,
Yeah.
a couple stretchy with 24 points, 14, 24, -5, 19, -9, 6, 11. That's a roller coaster. That's emotionally draining.
Yeah.
But I think I think a couple weeks ago I may have been like a 5 on the drop. It's easier for me to say it. I haven't rostered him ever. And so I'm from the outside looking in. But I think right now he's like a 4. Because years past, he's been a fantastic pitcher. He was a top guy. Not the top by any means, but top. I think we'll find it again. And that's something I want to hold on to. You dropped him, and I don't know why. I think probably a lot of people put a claim in for him. And Ethan picked him up.
Ethan did pick him up. I dropped him for Dane Dunning, and Dane Dunning's been phenomenal since then. So I think Dunning had an average start last time out, but honestly, so far it's been a good move for me. I think it was the availability of Dunning that made me decide to drop him. Otherwise, if there was any other pitcher out there, I probably wouldn't have done it.
Did you give a number on that?
I'll give it a 6.
Okay. And I said what? Like a 3? 4?
Yeah. I mean, look, there's some other guys out there, depending on how deep your waiver wire is, where you could definitely drop Peralta and find somebody better, but I'm not going to say, hey, he's a 9, you need to drop him.
All right. Let's get to one last name before we get to some start say cut. We'll see how far we can get, how much time allows. Those are always fun, so we may go a little longer than normal here. But somebody's been fantastic all season and really only just started to slump over the last month. That's Bryce Elder. So for my take on this is I never know how he was getting away with it in the first place. I never trusted him. I traded for him, and I dropped him a couple weeks later. Obviously, that turned out to be a mistake. He's been like an ERA Cy Young winner basically to this point. But I knew it wasn't going to last. He didn't have the strikeouts. He walks too much. He didn't have the exit velocities. I don't know how he's getting by. Maybe it was just Babbitt. Maybe it was luck. Maybe the defense behind him. So I've been expecting this for a while. I don't know if I can say I can claim victory when he was good for 2 months after I dropped him. But I think he's finally started to regress. And over the last month, he's got a 5.61 ERA with a 1.56 whip. We talk about all the time how important whip is. 1.5 is not good. You can't sustain as a fantasy pitcher, really in any pitcher with a 1.5. So maybe this is the start of that. I'm probably like a 6 or a 7 on him because he has been good. I'd be a 10 if he wasn't good all season, but because he has been good, I'm like a 6.5. We'll call it that. Maybe I'll get burned on it because I did get burned for a month or all season, but I'm not high in Elder.
I too am not high on Elder. I think we've agreed on that we've been waiting on him to kind of hit this downtrend for probably a month and a half, 2 months now, and it's just now happening. So for Bryce Elder, man, I'm gonna have to go a 4, and here's why. He plays for the Braves. He has a lockdown rotation spot, and there just aren't that many guys like that out there. You know what I mean? And anybody that I pick up on the waiver wire right now is waiver wire. Say that 5 times fast.
Yeah.
They're, Oakland's Medina, right? You're not going to get wins out of him. Or it's like, Wade Miley from Milwaukee, and I just don't have confidence in those guys to be as good as Bryce Elder has been and have the opportunity for wins. So as much as I hate to say it, I don't think Bryce Elder is as good as he's shown us, but I also can't drop him because I there's just too much opportunity for points. So I'm kind of stuck on that one, but I don't know that I'm dropping him. I think we might differ there. I'm going to go a 4 on that.
I mean, over the last 100 plate appearances, he's become less than league average. 50, he's been horrible. Obviously, because the last month has been bad, but I don't know. Every metric you look at, the standard strikeouts, walks, the expected stuff, batting averages versus expected batting averages, hard hit rates, everything, since he's not a good pitcher. So that's one we differ on. Maybe that's a good one to end on for that segment, but I just don't see it for Bryce Elder for me.
Yeah, he's a guy that next year's draft is going to get overdrafted, and people are going to pay for it.
Not by me.
Not by me.
All right, let's move on to Start Sit Cut. It's a fun segment. We've had some good feedback from our fans, from our listeners. And we'll get to some interesting names here. There's some groups that you think are easy, and you start digging into them, and they're not. I don't know how many we're going to get through. I don't know how late we want to go, but this first group is the catchers here.
Let's do some rapid fire with it.
Yeah, that's good. That's what the heart tells us, not digging deep research. JT Realmuto, Sean Murphy, and Francisco Alvarez, a group of catchers. We talked about JT Realmuto in the drop-o-meter, and we weren't high on him, but his name carries weight. What do you think, those three? Realmuto, Murphy, Alvarez.
Yeah, I think the start is pretty easy, right? Sean Murphy, he's been, the number one catcher in fantasy. He's awesome with the Braves.
Something like that.
All-star. As frustrating as Francisco Alvarez has been this year, I think I'm keeping him, man. I think I'm going to bench him because he's leading the league in home runs for catchers, and I'm going to cut Realmuto because, that hurts to say, but he's just been frustrating for what you probably drafted him for.
That is outrageous. I don't know how you can say that. I agree. I don't know how I can say that either.
Man.
Murphy's been a breakout. He's been great. Alvarez, I think, in the coming years could probably top Murphy. And maybe this is the demise of Realmuto, but
maybe.
I can't believe I'm saying that. I traded him this year thinking, oh my God, why did I do that? Realmuto was a stud. He did this last year. He's going to turn it on. Turns out it's been a great trade. I just, ironically, I traded for Sean Murphy.
Sometimes you're the bug. Sometimes you're the windshield, man. Sometimes you're just a genius and you don't even know it.
I did not expect this return when I agreed to get rid of Realmuto. All right, that was good. I like that one. Next up, moving to the first base group. Some names that have been underwhelming is Vladimir Guerrero, Pete Alonso, and some names that have been overachieving or overwhelming, whatever you want to call it, Spencer Steer. So Vlad, Alonso, Steer. Start one, sit one, cut one.
Yeah, I'm going to... I think Vlad's going to have a big second half. I'm going to start Vlad. I think Steer might taper off a little bit. I'm not sure how they're going to get him in the lineup every day. Maybe they will. So might surprise some people, even though Alonso, I think, is a number 5 scoring first baseman right now. But I'm cutting Alonso, man. He has not been good the last few weeks. So start Vlad, sit Steer, cut Alonso.
I'm with you there for the most part. I'm going to start Vlad.
Come at me, Twitter.
you're getting slaughtered for this one. I like your logic with Steer and what he's going to do. I think he's been great. I think he's due for some regression. So I'm going to cut Steer and sit Alonso. He's got too much pedigree, too much history. I say in theory he's on a good team that should be a good team. So I'm going to keep him around. Next up, we've got our second baseman group, Matt McLain, Ha-Seong Kim, and Max Muncy. When we talked about these before, some of these guys, these names, really we talked about all these names on previous episodes. The easy one for me is Max Muncy. He was on my drop-o-meter. He's getting dropped here. But I thought he was fun with this group because his name carries so much more weight than Ha-Seong Kim and Matt McLain. When it comes to Kim and McLain, those are interesting because Kim has been hot recently, and McLain's got a lot of unknown. You know, he was good in the minors. He's still only been up for 6 weeks now. With that being said, I think I'm going to start McLain and sit Kim. My logic behind that is the Reds lineup is so hot. He's hitting second in the lineup. You know, that's the ideal spot. I know Kim's hitting at the top. Padres are not as good. I don't think Kim's as good. His ceiling's lower. So I'll start McLain, sit Kim, cut Muncy.
I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I absolutely agree with you. 100% on board with that. And with your logic. I think McLain is fun to watch. Reds are fun to watch. He's a great player. He's having a great year so far. Kim is hot, but he's hot right now. I don't expect that to stay that way. And Muncy, we talked about earlier. Yeah, I'm out on him.
Yep. So next group, we're looking at some third basemen here. And this one, when I was doing the research to pick out names, surprised me. But I thought it was a good group of names to go with. So that's Justin Turner, Josh Young, and Matt Chapman. Reminder, Josh Turner's like, not Josh Turner, he's a singer. Justin Turner is like 60 years old. Josh Young is a rookie from Texas who strikes out way too much. And Matt Chapman was the hottest thing since sliced bread to start the weeks, and he's cooled off significantly. But their names and what they've done over the years surprised me when I started digging into it. I'll let you take this one since I've spoiled that a little bit.
Man, I love Josh Young. Justin Turner's pretty consistent, and Chapman has kind of fallen off. So I'm gonna go Josh Young start. I'm gonna sit Justin Turner, and I'm gonna cut Matt Chapman. I know he had a hot start to the year, but he just hadn't been the same guy. I mean, he had some early MVP votes, but nah. I think I'm out on Chapman now.
So I'm going to agree to disagree on you on some of that. I'm agreeing because Matt Chapman can go. He's no longer on our team. I think he is who we thought he was. He just had a really hot start.
And we let him off the hook.
But he's not this. I don't think I ever bought into it. Hopefully we'll listen to some old episodes and someone can agree with that. But I'm going to start Justin Turner. And I would not have said that a month ago. He's just been so consistent, so good. The Red Sox have been better as of late. And he's got fairly good play discipline. He's one of the lower striking out third basemen and higher walk ratios. It's a 2-1, which is a lot more you can say for Josh Young, who's like a 6-1, 116 strikeouts versus 65. The power is obviously not going to be there for Justin Turner. 14 home runs versus 19. That's actually better than I thought. I guess he's taking a better Fenway, but I just think in a points league, we look for consistency. Yeah, Young's probably going to have a 40-point week eventually, and Turner probably won't, but I'm going to take Turner. Start Turner.
Hey, I like that. I love Justin Turner.
Solid guy. All right, moving on to shortstops. This one was an interesting group when I went through these.
This one's tough, man.
So Dansby Swanson, obviously on the IL, so you have to take that into account, but he's been playing most of the year. Willy Adames and Gunnar Henderson. You can have this one again. I don't know what to do.
Man, I'll say this. Henderson has found his stroke. The last few weeks, Henderson has been on fire. He's come back to the player we saw last year come up and set the world on fire. So I'm going to start Henderson. Between Swanson and Adames, man, that's tough. This one's close. I just think Swanson's been more consistent, even though he's on the IL right now. I just don't know what to expect with Adames, man. He might go out and hit 3 home runs in a game and then not get another hit for 5 games. I'm not really sure what to think of him this year. So I'm gonna sit Swanson and cut Adames.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think Gunnar's just getting started. Whether it's redraft or dynasty, he's going to be the best of these 3 long term. The rest of the year we'll see how it plays out. But Gunnar's just getting started, so I'm going to start him. Adames, I just don't really have faith in. At one point I did last year. I really liked him. I drafted him. But he just has 0 play discipline. He can't hit to save his life. He's hitting below the Mendoza line, so he's getting cut. And then Swanson, I'll sit. Good guy to have on the bench. All right, next up, we're looking at the outfield group. Now, this was hard because there's a ton of names to pick from. Outfield so big, but 3 names that stuck out to me was Stephen Kwan, Alex Verdugo, and Lane Thomas. I'll take the first shot at this one. Verdugo started out super hot. Kwan's been always consistent. And Lane Thomas, as of recently, has come on the map. So that was a couple of names that I wasn't really sure what to do with. I think I'm going to go with, well, let me double check something real quick. I think I'm going to start Stephen Kwan for consistency wise. He's not the highest scoring guy. He's not the most power guy by any means, but his walk to K ratio is really good. He's got pretty good play discipline. Hits the top of the lineup for the most part, or somewhere up there. And so I'll take that consistency day over day. Alex Verdugo, I'll sit. I trust him. That's not biased here. He's really progressed over the last couple of years, become a better player, not selling out for power as much, just to being a better pure hitter. And Lane Thomas, even though I rostered him, he's helped me win a couple games or a couple matchups the last couple of weeks. I don't trust it long term, and so I'm going to sit Lane Thomas.
Man, this one I think we might differ on a lot. Thomas has had a great year. I might start Thomas, sit Quan, and then cut Verdugo because Verdugo has really kind of dropped off. I agree with your logic on Thomas. I do expect him to kind of taper off and regression to the mean, so to speak. But I get Quan's consistency, but I just don't feel like he's going to score me any points every week, you know?
Yeah, he doesn't have a lot of power. I think he's got 3 home runs in the season, so most of it comes from steals and play discipline. Yeah, it's hard to lie. Yeah, this was tough for me. I mean, recency bias says Lane Thomas is the best out of the 3 of those, and I just cut him. So what am I doing, right? What do I know? Maybe this is the breakout for Lane Thomas, and I'm wrong. Hell, maybe you're making me second guess. I don't know. Can I pass on this one?
Pass on this one. All right, let's go. We got 2 more left.
Starting pitchers. Interesting list here. I know I've said that a couple of times, but there's some good names. Justin Steele, Blake Snell, and Dylan Cease. Take it away.
I think Snell has been too dominant over the last month and a half to not start. Justin Steele has regressed. Dylan Cease has been good, not great. So I'm going to start Snell, sit Dylan Cease, and then cut Justin Steele. Which would have been the exact opposite of what I would have done to start the season.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. To start the season, it had been...
Start Steele, sit Cease, and cut Snell.
Well, I definitely would have cut Snell. I think I always believed in Cease over Steele, so it wouldn't have been the exact opposite. So 2 months ago, it was cut Snell, start Cease, sit Steele. I just never believed in Steele. I'm going to get massacred by Cubs fans. And now I think Steele has started to kind of fall off a little bit. So I'll be cutting Steele. Snell, like you said, he's been dominant. And I still believe in Cease. So I'm going to keep him on the roster, but I'll sit him. All right, last group here, relief pitchers. Another interesting group. I gotta stop saying that, but they are. They're all interesting.
Well, you put a lot of time and effort into these groups.
So, Craig Kimbrell from the Phillies, Will Smith from Texas, and AJ Puck from the Marlins. None of those are historically lockdown closer. Well, Kimbrell's one of the greatest of all time, but he's lost it. But specifically speaking, this year, none of them have been like the guy, 100%. This is the guy. There's no Hader, Bautista, Diaz of this group.
Right.
What are you doing?
I think I'm gonna start Puck, sit Smith, and cut Kimbrell. And I'm not 100% confident on that.
Good, because my answer is not the same. Kimbrell's been really, really good. I think he's converted 16 of the last 16 saves. And I think he's found his own form. So I'm going to start Kimbrell. Smith's been, for the most part, pretty consistent. You know, he gets blips here and there. I know he's competing with Aroldis Chapman, and we talked about that in the last episode. But I'm still going to keep him on the roster, so I'm sitting him. And I'm actually going to cut Buck because he has been slipping recently. If you look at, the whole year as a whole, he's been good. But I think there's a chance, I forgot the guy's name, but Tanner Scott may be taking his job. I said the same thing about Chapman. But yeah, start Kimbrell, sit Smith, cut Puck. So definitely different from your list. And that's the beauty of fantasy. We talked about it before, is perceived value versus reality value versus, if we're going for a trade and I'm like, hey, I'll give you Puck for Kimbrell. You're like, yeah, let's do that. And we're both over here thinking, I just won this trade big time.
Yeah.
And only time will tell. So yeah, that was another episode of Fantasy Baseball Camp. We covered Drop-O-Meter, some really interesting names there. Hopefully that helped you out. We did start, sit, cut, a favorite game of ours recently. We got to some interesting names. So I hope this was good. Just a reminder, if you like the episode, give us a like, subscribe, comment, 5 stars, what it may be. Wes, do you have any final comments?
I don't, man. Looking real forward to what the trade deadline brings.
Yeah, same here. I think I've said this many times, but the trade deadline is one of my favorite times of the year. It's right up there with opening day. So
Yep.
for Wes, BNB_Wes, I'm Tommy Lombard, BNB_Lombard. Thanks for joining us today.